Hi, welcome to Swishing Mindsets. This is Anuradha. Today I'm speaking to Sabita Radhakrishna. She's the founder chairperson of Udavi, which provides networking platform to elderly people. A freelance writer, food columnist, and broadcaster, she was associated for over 20 years with Doordarshan and All India Radio as a script writer and program hostess. An active member of the Crafts Council of India, she has had hands on experience with textiles for over 30 years. Interestingly, she was the first to introduce the concept of mismatched blouses and the first to introduce blouse pieces with woven borders and motifs on the sleeves and the back. And we will talk about that as well in the course of the conversation. So, hi, Sabita. So wonderful to
Hi.
have you. Yeah.
So wonderful to meet you, Anral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry I have to mention your age. I mean, you're a proud
Please go
82-year-old.
ahead. I
Yeah.
don't think I'm proud of my age.
Yeah.
I think every age has its own specialty and every age is interesting. So I
Yes.
don't mind at all.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So you're a proud 82-year-old
Yeah.
and doing so much. And so for the, rest of us and for listeners, it's very inspiring because we're also getting there slowly. And for us to know that it's a great age to be in and, it's fun. It's not just like we were just talking 2 minutes ago about, it's not like, old age means that you're not having fun and life is over. So I'll let you take over. So should we start with Uddhavi? What is Uddhavi?
Udavi in Tamil means help. So this is what we try to provide for our elders, and our USP is uh, detonating the loneliness that elders feel after they reach a certain age. It's the empty nest syndrome when the children leave, and still they are young enough to pursue their interests. They go to the club, they socialize, etc. But as the time goes on, and especially if you've lost a partner, the loneliness creeps in. So I know what it is because in one fell swoop, I lost both my husband and my mother. We three had such a feeling of we enjoyed being close to one another. We had common interests. We used to go out everywhere together. In fact, people who saw us used to call us the Three Musketeers. And suddenly, they went very swiftly. And so I'm living alone. So I never thought it would happen to me. You always think you're infallible and this thing happens to others, not to you. But when it hits you, you realize. So I was all the more keen that we should start an organization. And frankly, I didn't have any clue because we've all done this work individually. But I feel that if we have an organization with common views and who are bonded together with the same ideas and ideals, we will achieve much more. So, Udavi was born with my taking over, the ideas. I wouldn't say take over the ideas, imparting my ideas to interested people. And I gathered people, I handpicked people who are passionate about looking after old people because some just don't have a clue. And these are the people I wanted. And the first persons I got were people who were running a shop which sold accessories to elders. And so I thought this connection would be really invaluable. And I went and had a talk with them. And yes, they were very interested because the shop was dedicated to one of their parents or both of them. So that's how it began with just three people, and we limped along because we didn't know where we were heading, how successful we would be. So we framed bylaws, we wrote out the constitution, and decided amongst them ourselves that what Udavi is going to be. So basically, we decided to do this visits idea, to visit people and find out how they are, what they need. And in the course of this, we also began to do case studies on elderly people. But we had to make sure that the people we visited didn't mind our visiting. We call them our beneficiaries. We had to get the consent of their children because they might turn around and say, "Who the hell are you? Why should you come and visit my parents? We are doing pretty well, thank you." But once, they knew that we were serious, and then they had to check out our background also, because being well known helped, because they checked out my credentials as well and they said, "You're in safe hands." So what we started doing was we used to get a signature from them to say they have no objection to our visiting, and then we would get an appointment and go and visit the older people. And I believe you me, they were thrilled. They said it's so nice that you people care. It's so nice that you people, and they, I suppose it's easier in India than abroad because we are all hospitable as a nation, and they opened their doors, and the children in turn were happy that the parents were otherwise occupied and not moaning and groaning about something. But we have our rules. We make sure that as we grew, when we started recruiting volunteers. In fact, this morning I did an orientation program for the volunteers because 5 of them had joined and they were enthusiastic. There are certain rules they have to follow. They can't get personal. They cannot, ask about the property and whether they own the place, and what squabbles they have within the family is strictly their own. We are just sounding boards. But then we started expanding our ideas. We didn't restrict ourselves to just visiting, but we also thought they'd like to go for a car drive. So some of us who have a car who drive, some who have a car plus driver, so that would be an added asset to anyone who wanted to join, because we used to just ask them to come. Then we take them for a drive near the beach, sit, or if they could get out, slowly get out and sit on the platform and watch the world go by, watch the sea. And then some of them wanted to visit hospitals, and this was very intimidating for them because they were terrified of the diagnostic tools that were used. So few of us were willing to go to the hospitals, not all, because we don't force anyone to do anything that they are not comfortable with. So we've started taking people for, an eye doctor's appointment or hospital visits or things like that. And then we also visit homes for the underprivileged, because those people are really bored. So we go and have some singing sessions with them, and get them to join us in singing. Then we donate maybe rice and urad dal and all, because they make idli sambar almost every day, and dosas, which they love, which is a staple food. uh, Sometimes they accept old clothes as well. So we are pretty good at that. We go, and sometimes, we go and buy bed sheets, pillow covers, things that they might need, and go and give it to them. And then basically we just like to light up their lives, give them something to look forward to. But one thing, I shouldn't say it about ourselves, but once they join the Udavi family, they can't get off because they're so clued in, they're so happy, and the idea is to bring a smile on their faces. Yeah. So if they get too sick and they're unable to sit, we encourage the family to tell us so that we'll keep off for some time till they get better. And I think communication and networking with other people is something very, very important in life, especially as we are living in this era where, isolation is very common. We all lead very insular lives. We keep to ourselves. And once that becomes a habit, it's very difficult to break. I know in my own family, there are a few people who just will not relate to anyone outside their immediate family. They stay indoors, but the loss is theirs. We can't really force them, but the loss is theirs. So what we do is we have some very good well-wishers and patrons. Like one person I'd really like to mention is Nina Reddy from Savera Hotels, who at least once a year she gives us a treat. She says, "Come and do what you like here." So she gives us the room, the hall actually, which can house about 50 to 60 people, and wonderful tea, which no one ever forgets, so that you don't eat dinner afterwards. And we have a lot of programs. Like once we got a gastroenterologist to come and talk to us. Once we had a person who cures through exercise, a very famous orthopedic person, a sports medicine doctor. And we've had a lot of singing sessions. where we get semi-professional singers to come and karaoke and do some singing. And when they sing, you feel like singing along. And recently we had an occasion where we were bringing in all retro music, and a 90-year-old lady who was leaning heavily on a stick and a walker. To our surprise, she got up and danced where she was. So that shows, the mood change,
Yeah, yeah.
how much they benefit by it. And they love seeing other people exchanging notes, talking to them and asking how each spends their time. Then we think that therapy through singing, we know that it helps, and music. We introduced art classes. They're not really classes. We just get artists or anybody, like even I, with a smattering of knowledge of painting. I paint. You could come and give a little talk and tell them what it's like, and we just buy them paint boxes and brushes and paper, and they do what they like. Sometimes it's so beautiful to see what they've done. They mix colors, and then this joy of using the brush to indicate their feelings. And then sometimes we give them a theme. We say, why don't you tell us what a tree means to you? And each person has a different interpretation. At the end
Like
of it,
what?
so much like
Yeah.
what a tree
Yeah.
means to you. So
So what?
some say the leaves,
Hmm.
some say the permanence, some say
Wow.
that it brings forth blossoms, it gives shade. So each
Interesting.
person has a different viewpoint, and they relate to it by painting.
Yeah, and sorry, I just want to interrupt, What about the songs for karaoke? What were the songs that were sung when you talk
Songs
about
that were
retro?
sung, where we have a mixture of English, Hindi, and Tamil songs. Are
Okay.
you? What are you? Are you a Tamilian?
No, I'm not a Tamilian, but it's okay. Somebody
No, but I just
listening
like
would
to
be.
know so that
No,
I'll
I'm
tell
not.
you.
I'm a North Indian, yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in
So
Bangalore, but
we know
otherwise,
North Indians
yeah,
are not too familiar with Tamil songs. So we
yeah.
bring in all the Devanand songs, and songs by Kishore Kumar, Manna
Yeah.
Dey, and things like that.
Huh.
And they are familiar to us also. Though we are
Yeah.
Tamilians, we grew up, we were
Hmm.
fed on Hindi songs and Hindi movies. So
Yeah.
all of us will join in lustily and sing with them and so on. And but they're always retro in the
Yeah,
sense
yeah.
that, so that we recapture the romance of the 70s and 80s and things like that.
Hmm.
And sometimes we give them a platform to sing also. Some
Hmm.
of them who are very gifted, they
Yeah.
come and stand before the mic and they sing, and it's amazing what talent they have.
Yeah. What
We
fun.
encourage them. Yeah. So in a nutshell, this is what we do. We actually contemplated, the idea of taking them out of Chennai and on a bus or something and showing them. But then after thinking about it deeply, we decided against it, because for one thing, we don't want to take the responsibility of taking about 30 elderly people who might have some serious complaints, and should they fall ill, we would be
Yeah.
left stranded and not know what to do. So we gave up the idea, but we make it up by having these cultural evenings. Another thing we do is we invite a group of them in the vicinity. We call them to our houses, and we give them high tea or maybe lunch or something like that, where they get to talk to one another, and they become friends. As I told you, it's all part of the Udavi family.
Yeah.
So, and we are 12 core group members. Sri Kumar is also one of them.
Yes, yes, yes.
He's
We
been with
had him in
us.
the last episode, yeah.
Yeah, we've had him with us for a long time. And his contribution is always valuable, because he works with seniors. And right now, he's in a position to offer us wonderful information on caring for seniors and so on. And he's an authority on the seniority homes that we
Yes.
have, because
Yes.
each person has their own, his or her own skill. So whenever we need to ask him questions on which home is ideal, and even for us thinking, considering where we should go, he's able to give us pointers,
Yeah,
tell us
senior homes, assisted living, yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
assisted living. And seriously, I think everyone should consider it at some point in their lives, unless, of course, they want to stay with their children. And people of my generation, like, I'm fiercely independent. I've lived like, I always say, I've lived like a Rani in my own house. I don't want to go and be dependent on my children. So, because whatever it is, it restricts you. You can't do all the things
Of
you.
course, yeah.
Of
But I
course,
think
how
that,
many things do
hmm,
you do when at this age?
yeah,
It's okay. But, even being mobile, going out, you have to follow it their way. You can't expect them to
yeah.
sacrifice their whole
I think
lives.
there
And
are many solutions available, even if you're planning to live in your own home. There are several things, like tiles and smart sensors, etc., which you can install in your own home for safety, right? These days.
true, but then it's not the same as one family member being with you. Now,
Absolutely. No
see, for
substitute. Yeah.
instance, I have a live-in. She stays with me
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah.
But in case, something happens and I'm not even able to communicate, she can't take a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, she will not know what to do.
Hmm.
So I miss that. I miss, because I was a caregiver for many years for both my mother and my husband. So not having a family member, it still doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So I am also considering the seniority living, because there's always somebody around and you're surrounded by like-minded people. You have people in the next flat, practically next door, just a call away anytime
Yeah.
you need anything. And then there are, these, as you said, sensors and panic buttons and things like
Yeah.
that. But it's nothing like living in your own home, a home which you have created over the years. You made it user friendly for yourself. It's not the same. And uprooting
Yeah.
ourselves from old homes and going somewhere, does sound very, what should I say? It's very frustrating, but then one has to be practical.
Yeah. You have to be practical. Yes.
You have
Absolutely.
to be practical. Otherwise, there's no go. It can be dangerous for people living alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we co-members meet once every month. Sometimes we, and it most of the time it has been in my house, because I have the space. And uh, and I started this, so it was automatically the choice. But now we feel, the others feel that it's too much strain on me, because we make tea, we literally host 12 people, to come over. So now we are having it at clubs, other people's houses. We all take turn. So it's moved like that. And why I'm talking to you about this networking is, um, you learn to be unselfish, in the sense, that other people have the same needs as you, and the way they cope, they all become shining examples. Like, we look up to them. Now, for instance, I studied in one school throughout my life. I was always in one school. So we knew everybody in the vicinity. I come from Bangalore, and it was a cantonment area. It was literally a one horse town, and my father was a doctor. He was pretty well known, and we knew everybody who lived there. So that bonding continued for a long time, because the school has, your formative years. It contributes to your
Yeah.
formative
Which school
years.
were you in? I also grew up in
It is
Bangalore.
it is called Clarence High School,
Clarence
which
High
was the
School.
only co-ed school when I was studying.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and how my father, who was so conservative, agreed to send my sister and me there, I really don't know till today. And it was my mother's influence, because she said, these girls have grown up without knowing boys at all. You don't allow boys to come into the house. How will they get on in life? So let them go to a co-ed school.
Yeah. Very
But when I
sensible.
went to the co-ed school, the boys were terrified of even talking to me, because they were afraid of my father. So it
Yeah.
was such, I used to be so amused, because they would never, lift that. Those were the days, but they must have had some tricks up their sleeves which we didn't know anything about. Like, they used to attach tails to us at the back,
Oh,
which we
okay.
didn't know, what a paper, and sometimes twisted ones. They'll attach it to us,
Huh.
and when we get up, everyone would laugh. We
Okay.
don't know what the hell they are laughing at, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Oh, those were really fun days.
Yeah.
And it
Really
was a
fun.
Protestant school, uh, run by missionaries, but they never tried to convert us. And it was a total acceptance, secular,
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very good. And then college, I didn't complete my college in Bangalore because I got married at the tender age of 18. So it was my husband who brought me up literally in my adult years. I always say that. And it was a
Yeah,
big jump from me coming from, being hemmed in at home, protected. And then my husband would just say, you have to be independent. And today I thank him immensely for protecting me at the same time allowing me to pursue all my interests, which I would never have done because in India, if you don't have a supportive husband, you're nowhere.
that's true. Yeah, how
Yeah,
sweet
you're
of you.
nowhere
Hmm.
because even if you rebel, and things like that, it's not the same. There's so much of stress and tension at home. Here, there's absolutely nothing. He'd say you do what you like, you follow your dreams. So for that, I'm ever grateful. But this other thing I'd like to talk about is the bonding and networking my husband had with his engineering college
Yeah,
mates.
because that's how I first got in touch with you when we spoke, because Sri Kumar told me when we were doing his
Yeah,
episode, and he said that you reconnected with all your classmates,
yeah,
and
yeah,
again, which you studied with them like maybe 65, 70 years ago.
yeah,
And then when I
yeah,
spoke to you, you said your husband was even one step ahead, of
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so please, yeah,
And
tell us about that.
we named it. We were the ones who gave that name. That was the College of Engineering Gindi. So we called it CEG 55.
Yeah, your
And
husband's group, huh? Hmm.
yeah, and we started the Silver Jubilee. We always used to celebrate in the college, and then we went on to having get-togethers. And every year, we would meet in a different place in India. In India, because that was all we can afford.
Yeah.
Now that legacy has been taken forward, and all the CEG students are doing it. My son is also from Gindi, and
Okay.
now it's a different ball game. They go everywhere outside India. They might
Okay.
go to
The next
Turkey, they
generation.
might
Yeah.
go to Malaysia, they might go to Bangladesh or Kashmir. In the sense they can afford it because
Yeah, yeah.
salaries are much more,
Of
people
course.
travel. And they are also so bonded, I cannot tell you. And we are happy that we sort of set this thing in motion. And what is amazing is that even the Diamond Jubilee was celebrated
Yeah.
by my husband's group, and the we wives took a lot of or we participated one hell of a lot, and we did the organizing behind the scenes work, so to speak. And you should see the way we had one get together. I think the last one was in Kerala, and the people who came, Anuradha, I can't tell you, they were all well into their 80s. They came in with walking sticks, walkers. Some needed to have dialysis, but they came because they would go back for their dialysis in the city. And we had a lot of programs, and that was really fun. I organized a small fashion show along with one of the daughters of the students, and it was such fun. Even people who wouldn't come on to the so-called ramp, we just had a long hall. She
Yeah.
would drag us and then made us walk, so everyone was very excited, dressed up to kill and all that. And the men had a great time dancing with all the young girls and the daughters of their friends and so on. So I can't
Yeah.
remember. And I remember they asked me to bring out a small little booklet on the get together. I still have my copy. So I had described it in full with a lot of photographs and tried to publish it as cheaply as possible so that everyone could afford to take a copy. So these are things that make life worth living.
Yeah.
And another thing was we are members of the Madras Gymkhana Club, which was it's one of the oldest clubs in India, and I think it's about 150 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we, for my husband and me and the children, it was like second home. So sometimes what we would do, a group of us, and the Gindi crowd became the people who we were closest to. We'd meet at my place, and what they would do is bring their children on a Saturday, and my mother used to look after the kids when we went out for dancing, and it was a live band
Oh,
every
okay.
Saturday. Okay,
Okay.
so
Uh,
yeah, so what we do is we'd have some snack or early dinner or something and go. And it used to go on till midnight. We'd enjoy ourselves and come back, see all these cuties, all these little ones lying on the carpet and with pillows and things strewn, and my mother also, sleeping close by to keep an eye on them. Then they
Hmm.
would pick up the kids. Some of them would stay overnight. I mean, we were like one family. If the day was very pleasant, they would just call and say, "Hey, it's a nice day. Shall we go for a picnic?" No mobiles then, only
Yeah, yeah,
landlines.
yeah.
So, what I would do the thing that I know best. I would make a quick biryani in the pressure cooker, take the pressure cooker with me. Each one would bring something. We'll throw some carpets and chairs inside. My husband was the sandwich maker in the group. He'd make sandwiches and off we'd go. We'd meet at a common place
Hmm.
and just get off.
Yeah.
We'll lie under the trees, we'll look at the stars, and then we'll take up a place. It was sort of community living where all the carpets were spread, and the children and the parents and all of us there. And some of us didn't know swimming. So I still remember swimming in Chembrapakam Lake, that supplies water.
Oh, okay.
Chennai. Okay,
Huh.
we were there, and then we got into another water body. I don't know, I can't remember what it was, and we were supposedly swimming, and we saw buffaloes there with us.
God.
We were there, and that's how we learned, some semblance of swimming. But if all of us just enjoyed, and yet, we were so disciplined. We would not trouble anyone, and we had such fun. So I still recall those days and miss all the people who have now gone.
Yeah.
And in my school, I must tell you, imagine if it's school. I had a friend, she was an American friend living in California. The last 2 years of school, high school, she did in Clarence School. And I became such friends with her. She became my best friend. When she left, she cried all the way to the US. I was sobbing here, and we'd write voluminous letters to each other. We tell each other just everything. My father would say, if I could collect those letters, you can write a novel, because each letter would be about 10 pages, 12 pages in our
Hmm.
handwriting. And just 2 months ago, she passed away. And it's been such a loss for me because she visited us twice. We visited them twice. And her going is like having lost a sister, but then
Yeah, I can
everything
imagine.
ends that
Yeah.
way.
Hmm.
And we discussed everything except the morbid things we'd keep off. We'd never complain if we had any illness. And yeah, we had a marvelous time. And when you talk about the older people and traditions, I'm basically a traditionalist. I don't veer away from tradition. And whatever I do, the background will be tradition. I've been in textiles for about 40, 45 years, and I opened the first boutique in Chennai. And that's where you said the mismatched
Mismatched blouses.
blouses came. I thought
And,
it's
like,
so
and it's so
boring.
I can't imagine there was a time when people did not wear mismatched blouses and you started it.
Yeah. Yes, I started many firsts there, and I had a ball because I got into a niche where everything was there for me. I opened my husband got hired a house where I had hand block printing. I trained people to do hand block printing, and I had a dyer to myself, and we would experiment with dyes, and we took exhibitions throughout India. And the weavers, I always think, Anuradha, that in my last generation I would have been a weaver, because our community, the Salyars and so on, they all, we come from a weaver, what do I say, community.
Yeah.
So I don't know, my affinity to textiles was like that. And I used to love sitting with the weavers, eating with them and getting to know, what their problems were. And till today I do it, though I've retired from active weaving and
Yeah.
active commercial activity. They come to me if they need designs, they come to me if they need colors, if they need marketing. And during the pandemic, they once called me up and said they are hungry. So I said, how do I help them? They had about 1,000 saris lying unsold. So sitting in front of a computer, only in front of a computer, a single, no organization was willing to back me. It was the days of the pandemic and everyone was stuck in their homes. So I adopted 3 villages, appointed one person from each village to represent the group. And what I did was train them to use the computer to display the saris and so on, and take photos. And then I made a catalog with their names, their banking accounts, the bank details and so on. So if they liked anything, they just have to specify the code, and they could get the orders directly. I put about 100 weavers on their feet, and we sold about 9,000 saris through this. I didn't want any contact with the money. I said it should be direct selling. And the catalog came out very well. And I got a loan from Tata Trust, gave me a grant, and also some people who were very, very liberal, they sent me money. And we helped them to find their feet, and they were so grateful, and they've not looked back ever since. And these are all old weavers, in the sense
Yeah.
they are in the tradition for years, vocation for years, and their children do not want to continue as weavers. So I've been trying my hand at revival, and I've succeeded. I did quite a few revivals, getting the tradition back.
Yeah. That's
And
that's
then
really wonderful.
lastly is
Hmm.
my passion for food. I've
Hmm.
written 6 cookbooks.
Yeah, yeah, I read. I just couldn't include everything
And
in your
somebody asked me,
introduction.
do you just write cookbooks or do you know how to cook?
Yeah.
So I always say I should be a living proof. And nobody comes to my home and goes away without eating. They'll say, what do you have for lunch? What do you have for dinner? And by God's grace, I always have enough for somebody who wants to eat. It might not be anything fancy, what we just make at home.
Yeah.
But sadly, now there's no incentive, there's only me. But I still make all different dishes. And guess who benefits a lot? The
You,
maids.
huh? Or the maids, okay. So what do you make? And what about your cookbooks? Tell us a little about that. And then we'll go back to the mismatched blouses. Yeah.
Okay. The cookbook, my first one was Aharam, because I thought all the time tested traditional recipes should be written. And again, I was a pioneer to do this. No one thought of documenting traditional recipes. For me, my mother was there, and she was a fabulous cook. Though she was a vegetarian, she would make non vegetarian stuff without tasting it. We were the tasters. The end of it, I said, why do you even call us for tasting? It's so good. And my father was very, very non-vegetarian, and he insisted on this. So I used to collect all the little notes. In those days, no internet, no sending by it. The recipes used to go by snail mail back and forth. So Aharam was more a documentation of my mother's community traditional dishes. Then I had again a problem with publishing. I was not happy with the publisher. But he was good, but then I felt that I could have been treated better in the sense. So we redid the book,
Yeah.
but on a different scale. I did something on the Tamil communities of uh, India.
Okay.
So various people, not just our community, but it was the Tamilian Christians, it was even Anglo Indians, different communities, the Velalas, and so on. So that was a book which is, if you see it in any store, please browse through it, because we've done it in a very different way.
Are
It
they
is like,
available, these books?
it's called Annapurni.
Annapurni. Okay. Are they
And
available still? Hmm.
because it has our photos, you
Hmm.
can see what I looked like when I was very young. And then,
Yeah,
then
sure.
my ancestors' pictures are there. And
Okay.
then I even featured the Tamil Muslims.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay, so that was nice. Then recently, another book which has been picking up a lot of awards is Pachagam. It's a book on Kerala cuisine. which was it was like a learning curve for me because the food was alien. I mean, basically, we don't eat Kerala food every day, though I love food from all communities. For 1.5 years, I fed my family on only Kerala food, only coconuts, coconut milk. Every dish has coconut, everything has coconut milk, coconut, coconut, coconut.
Yeah.
And I told my husband, we are in deep trouble. You just wait till we take the blood test. The cholesterol levels are going to be very high. And would you believe it, Anuradha? We checked the cholesterol.
Huh.
It had come down. The good cholesterol had
Wow.
gone up,
Huh.
the bad cholesterol had come down. The equation, the formula thing was also excellent. So
Hmm.
it just proves, it's a fallacy to think
Yeah.
coconut oil is actually very good medium to cook.
Yeah, and
We don't
traditional
realize. Yeah,
recipes. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So see, right now what I've decided, I can't wait for a publisher to publish my book. So I'm doing one which I've titled Amma's Kitchen. So
Okay.
it has a mix of the, whatever I've innovated, some traditional recipes and some recipes which I've worked out, which work better than the old ones, and which I've done hundreds of times and people like it. So that is in the pipeline, you know
The Kerala
living.
one, what is it called? The recipe
Which
book?
one?
The
This
Kerala
one?
one. The Kerala one.
Kerala one is called Pachagam,
Pachagam. Okay.
and it recently won the this Oxford prize for being the best printed book of the year, just few months back.
Okay.
The award.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So that's also very nicely brought out. But my favorite is still Annapurni. The way it's like you'll think it's my scrapbook because
Hmm.
they've also imitated my writing. They've used a font which looks like my writing, and it's very nicely done. So that's my cookbook writing, and yeah, so my grandchildren want me to do my autobiography, but I said I won't do an autobiography. It always hurts because you have to be very honest. So
Yeah.
I just called it Memoirs of a Writer. Because I've had by God's grace, I've had a very interesting life. I've met with so many people that people don't usually get to meet. Like when I was in the textile thing, I used to meet people like Shabana Azmi used to come and sit for a chat. Then Anupam Kher's family used to come, and Ambani's. I mean, everybody used to come there. But I was quite a buddhu those days. I would never recognize them or get overawed. It was just
Yeah.
someone I liked, someone you know
Yeah.
who that is? This is Rajesh Khanna's wife. You
Hmm.
don't recognize her? I said, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So things like that, used to happen. And the mismatched blouses you were saying, see,
Yeah,
it
like I want
was
to know how that happened, why you
see
thought of
what
it.
happened is I would see these people matching the saris with the two by two was the fabric in fabric at that time.
Yeah, where did you
And they
see?
would
In the
two by two. It was
hmm.
called two by two.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I remember.
Yeah,
Where did
it's
you
a
see
very
them? Uh-huh.
it is plain, absolutely plain,
Hmm.
36 inches width, and we needed about 85 to 90 centimeters
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a
No, I
blouse.
mean, where did you see them matching? In shops or
No, my own family, my
oh,
own
you want
mother.
oh
Like
in the
if she
house?
take
Okay.
a
Huh.
sari, go to
Huh.
the shop, it had to be just right. I said,
Yeah,
Ma,
yeah,
what is
I
there? It's a
remember.
few
Yeah,
shades different. No,
yeah,
no, 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 no. It has to match. And usually it'll be a self match. It very rarely contrasted and all. And then if similar saris, if you had a sari and I had one just like yours, we'll end up looking like clones. So I
yeah,
always told the public whenever I used to write or they came to the shop, you have to develop your own personality. For one thing, please don't wear the same blouse. Wear something different and interesting. Wear different accessories so that you'll be quite different from the other person who's wearing the same sari. How can we wear different things? So I said, I'll show you how. And because I was printing, what I would do is my printed saris were very exclusive. It was literally like one of a kind. I used to break my head making designing blocks and making. Then what I do is I take the blouse, and if it was a blue sari with a red border, I won't give a same boring blue. I take a red, and it might be a different shade of red.
hmm.
And put a chap on the sleeves,
Yeah,
on the back and, here. They went wild over this. Then I went into weaving. It
Yeah.
had never
Which
been
year was
done.
this? When was
Huh?
this? Which
This
year?
was this was in the 80s, early 80s,
Okay.
late
Mhm.
70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And you won't believe it that Chennai wouldn't accept. Then I started wearing it. Then I would say, see, you compliment me. Why don't you wear it? You can carry it off, but we can't be so daring. That is what they said. When I introduced it to Bombay, and everyone started following, including the actresses and so on. And Femina featured it, Eve's Weekly featured. I got it all free. Today you pay lakhs for that. Center
Yeah.
spread with the
Hmm.
models. Hema Malini modeled my sarees also.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so then when I came back, then there was a rush because their friends in Bombay had talked about my mismatched blouses, and they would think. And to get a sari with a blouse was something so difficult those days. You didn't wear the sari because you didn't have a matching blouse. I said, forget it. Don't wear a matching blouse. Don't wear these boring things. Then, when I started weaving, I was teaching the weavers, I would do a layout on paper and tell them where to position the motif. That was a hit because sometimes the motifs would be in gold and they had to be just right at the back below the neck. And I would say, aha, no low cut blouses. For this, you have to wear what we used to call reka blouses, high like this, and it would come down like. So they wore it there. And then
Huh.
little zari borders or
Hmm.
colored borders for the sleeves and
Yeah.
a little for the back. And I used to do tailoring also. So we used to get it done, and I cannot tell you what a rage it was those days. And then I had my own hand embroidery person coming and doing hand embroidery. I had machine embroidery person, and I had that Ari work person. So that person also would do some little things, for weddings and so on to enhance the blouse.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
today blouses have taken over. People tell me they pay 45,000 for a blouse and then get the sari to match. Can you believe
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Just
It's reached
imagine.
that stage now. But in my days, people were always hesitant to spend.
Yeah.
They won't spend so much. They'd say,
Hmm.
90 rupees for a sari. You mean you charge 20 rupees for a blouse? And now they're willing to pay something like even 1,000 rupees,
Yeah. Of
stitch
course.
an ordinary blouse.
Yeah.
So yes, I've had good innings and I've enjoyed my life. As
Yeah.
I tell you, I've been really lucky. Of course, it had its ups and downs, and because I was a bad businesswoman, not listening to my husband to
Hmm.
price the things differently, to charge for my time. Like if you came and you just tell me, Sabita, design a wardrobe for me, I'd look at you, see your personality, the job you're in, and I'll design the wardrobe just for you. It is your wardrobe, you're special. And I
Hmm.
would
So
spend
you were a
hours.
stylist, basically. So
I was stylist as well as, see, these days they call
yeah.
themselves designers without doing anything. And then
Yeah.
one day I must tell you another very strange story.
Hmm.
The cutting place, we had converted our garage into a place where all these things happened, the accessories making and the cutting, the sewing and embroidery and all that. So this tailor, he came and showed me one garment which I had designed out of mull, and it was very beautiful because I did the dyeing in shades. It started from a dark blue and it slowly receded till the top portion was almost white. Very difficult process, but because dyer was on the spot, I was there. I did, and I was aghast because what happened is he had cut it teda. The top portion was a little high and it came down like that. The lower portion was a little down. I put it in a hanger. I kept looking at it. I said, it looks good. Why not? This is a nice thing.
Yeah. Even if it's
And the
crooked,
fellow
why not?
came
Yeah.
scratching his head and
Huh.
thinking he's going to be scolded. I said, let's make more master like this. And
Hmm.
this time I did two layers, two tiers
Yeah.
because it was transparent material. One was like this, the other one was like that, and it went up like that.
Hmm.
And then I would make things where the back was longer than the front. Now all that I was ahead of my time.
It's come back
Really.
now. Yeah.
Because now we are doing. I used to do anarkalis those days. I used
Oh,
to think people with good figures,
yeah.
you have small waist,
Yeah.
make it high bust like this, just below the bust, and gathers.
Yeah.
Tell you, and we used to have. I used to make this kalamkari material, in the
Yeah.
sense hand block printed with vegetable dyes.
Hmm.
So when it went through that process, it became soft. So that it used to lend itself to anarkalis. And to make it dressy, I would put the sari work embroidery,
Oh,
here and there,
beautiful.
just for a little bit of glitter. I feel so sad that those days I couldn't capture all that on camera, because to go photograph all that, you needed all the equipment. But here in the mobile, what things you can
Yeah,
capture.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so that
true.
is one thing I feel sorry about.
I can see you're quite active on social media as well, right?
I
Instagram.
no, no, I'm not that active. I'll tell you what.
But you're
I used
active.
to
Yeah.
write for Hindu, the
Yeah.
national newspaper,
Hmm.
and anything I wrote, it was social issues on craft, on textiles, on food. Then what happened is they said, no, we shouldn't all the time hire these freelancers. Why not we give it to our own staff? So they cut down on articles sent to us. So I
Hmm.
park myself on Facebook and all that. If there's something I want to say, it just comes out. I have to write. So
Yeah.
where else do I send it? I put it on Facebook. Again, when it's appreciated, okay. But I don't even, like an idiot, I don't check to
Hmm.
see how many people have read it. Even now, I have not read my recent ones at all. I
Okay.
don't know.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what
Yeah.
what reaction it got. But
But at
usually
least
people
other
call
people are reading. That's
who are
the,
reading.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, why not? I
Yeah,
just
and
went through
I
some of your
used to
stuff.
sit in the
Hmm.
balcony in the mornings and have my cup of coffee. So I used to keep the phone with me and keep, shooting something or the other. At one point, I was active on Instagram. I used to put all my photos. Now, again, Instagram has changed, no, in nature. It's more like FB, what FB was in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. But it's still, yeah, I don't know. Hmm.
But you can write a lot more on
You can write
Instagram
a lot more
than
on FB. Instagram also you can write a lot more, but it's more picture oriented, I guess.
yeah,
More than
yeah,
images,
picture
yeah.
oriented.
So
That's
that's
what I
nice,
used
maybe
to
more
like.
attractive. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
But otherwise, because I feel that once you get into the social media thing, you spend hours. Like
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, yeah.
say,
Hours.
Anuradha's there. Let me see what she's doing. Then you
Yeah.
go into it. Then some other friend you spot. So it never ends there.
Never ends,
You
yeah.
can just go on for hours. So that's why I keep off it. But very
Hmm.
strangely enough, my grandchildren have got off it completely.
Hmm.
My
Oh.
granddaughter was in FB for 8 years. She was
Hmm.
working there
Hmm.
as a marketing person and a design consultant.
Okay.
They've all gone off it. They say
Hmm.
we don't like to be in social media. I don't know. She
Yeah.
says it's for oldies.
That's true. Facebook is supposed to be for old people now.
Yeah,
I don't know how these things happen and how it changes really all of a
I
sudden.
know. I
Yeah,
know.
really. So, Savita, it's so nice talking to you. Tell me, for other people, who suddenly retired, senior citizens, you're such an inspiration. What message should you give them? Because I come across so many people, they say that now I'm retired and I wake up in the morning and have nothing to do. There's no purpose. And, so what do you tell them?
I wish I could engage them, because I can tell them lot of things to do, and I feel an idle mind is a devil's workshop. You start thinking morbid things and say, how much more time do I live? Do I really need to do this and all? I think there's lots you can do, and yesterday's 60s are today's 40s. See,
Absolutely.
though
Yeah.
at my age, I've recently become disabled after a few falls. I use a walker at home, but that doesn't stop me from going out. I pack my walker in the car, and then when I go down, there are always people to help me. And as long as there's no staircase climbing, I go everywhere. But what I feel is it's very important not to isolate yourself, because it's so easy to slip into depression.
Yeah.
And the seniority homes, why I get tempted is what a host of activities they have. They have swimming pool, they have community games, they have indoor games, they have badminton, and you wish that you had the youth to enjoy all that. but they target it at the older generation because there's a crying need for us to be physically and mentally active. So I think every person, nobody should consider themselves old. My son always says age is just numbers, and
Yeah,
you're as old as you think.
absolutely.
You can think young, you feel young, and people say you look young, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah, of course.
yeah, so you don't give up on yourself. You feel like dressing well, dress well. You feel like applying makeup, as long as it's not overdone and you're not competing with the younger ones in an attempt to look younger, you're great. You can be elegant at any stage, you know, so you don't have to give up, wear sackcloth and ashes and things like that. So
Yeah.
you keep going, you keep moving, and keep moving your limbs. Never stay quiet. Like, I can't sit for long. I need to
Hmm.
do something all the time. But
Yeah.
mine has always been all my hobbies are sedentary.
Hmm.
Now I've started going back to embroidery and crochet and painting, which I hadn't done in a long time, and I
Yeah.
just love it. And there doesn't seem to be enough time to do all the things I want to do, you know,
Hmm.
because when the grandchildren visit and the children come on visits, then I throw everything off and it's just being with them.
Hmm.
It counts,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So, yes. So, and you live life again through your children,
Hmm.
grandchildren. Don't criticize them too much because they have their own views. With every generation, the perspective changes. So, see things through their eyes also.
Yeah, yeah.
Once you accept it, you're a happy person, you know,
Yeah. I
not
think
always.
acceptance is key, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Sabita, so much.